You've probably felt it before, that strange electric pull towards someone who feels different. The chemistry is instant. The connection feels cosmic. She makes you feel seen in a way no one else ever has. But just as you start to trust it, she disappears. Texts slow down, energy changes. You're left replaying every moment, every word, searching for what you did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong, you just met the cycle. The push-pull dynamic is one of the most powerful psychological hooks in human relationships. It starts innocently, a spark, a flirtation, a rush of dopamine that feels like destiny. She pulls you close with warmth, affection, attention. Then suddenly, she pushes you away with coldness, withdrawal, silence. And in that silence, your brain begins to starve. That's when addiction begins. Not to her, but to the feeling of her coming back. Every time she withdraws, your anxiety spikes. When she returns, your brain floods with dopamine and relief. This emotional whiplash wires your nervous system to crave instability, because unpredictability feels like intensity. You mistake emotional chaos for connection. You start chasing the high of being chosen again. You tell yourself, she's just complicated. She's been hurt before. She needs time. But what's really happening is a neurological conditioning process, one that mirrors the mechanics of gambling addiction. You're pulling the emotional slot machine, hoping this time she'll stay. The tragedy is how convincing it feels. When she pulls you close, it's euphoric. Her attention is intoxicating. You feel alive, powerful, chosen. But when she pulls away, it's like withdrawal from a drug. You'll do anything for another hit. You'll chase, apologize, overanalyze, compromise your boundaries. Not because you're weak, but because your brain has been hijacked. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. Rewards that come unpredictably are the most addictive kind. It's the same mechanism casinos use, the same pattern social media exploits. And when it comes from someone you desire, it becomes a psychological prison dressed as passion. You tell yourself you're in love. But love doesn't make you paranoid. Love doesn't make you wait by your phone. Love doesn't make you beg for the same affection that was once freely given. You're not in love, you're conditioned. That's the real cruelty of the push-pull cycle. It disguises itself as depth. It sells you the illusion of passion when it's really dependency. And the deeper you go, the more it rewires your sense of worth. You start believing that the pain is proof that it's real. You start calling chaos chemistry. But this isn't random. There's a pattern behind the madness, a reason she behaves this way. And it's not always conscious. Because behind every push-pull dynamic, there's someone who's learned to survive through emotional control. Someone who's afraid of being abandoned, so they abandon first. Someone who craves closeness, but fears what it might expose. You think you're chasing love. She's running from fear, and both of you are trapped in the same storm. Addiction doesn't always come in a bottle. Sometimes it comes dressed as connection, but the question remains, why does this cycle start in the first place? What's behind that first push? That sudden emotional vanishing act that leaves you breathless and confused? That's where we're going next. Because to understand the trap, you have to see how the game begins. It never starts with chaos. It starts with intensity disguised as connection. When she first meets you, she mirrors your every emotion, your humor, your interests, even your rhythm, reflected back like a flawless echo. You don't feel like you've met someone new. You feel like you've finally been understood. That's how the hook is set. Psychologists call this love bombing, but it doesn't always come from manipulation. Sometimes it's just someone desperate to bond, someone who's mastered the art of becoming whatever the other person needs. Her attention feels rare, sacred, almost unreal. You start believing this is what meant to be feels like. You drop your guard, you open up, and that's when she pulls away. No warning, no explanation, just distance. Her warmth turns into cool indifference. Her replies shrink. Her eyes don't light up like before. It feels like a crime scene where love used to live, but there's no evidence of what went wrong. You start chasing clarity, then validation, then her. That's the pull. It's not rejection, it's reinforcement. The absence makes you crave her more. Your brain, flooded with dopamine one moment and deprived the next, starts to crave the return of that original high. That's why the first few weeks feel like a drug trip, and the silence feels like withdrawal. This is where the push-pull cycle begins. She gives affection, then withholds it. She opens up, then shuts down. She invites you close, then acts like you're too much. And the more inconsistent she becomes, the more addicted you feel to fixing it. You don't realize it yet, but your nervous system has started to bond through chaos. You're no longer falling in love. You're falling into a pattern. Every push creates confusion. Every pull creates relief. And confusion mixed with relief becomes a chemical loop your brain mistakes for attachment. That's why you keep forgiving, waiting, rationalizing, because your mind tells you the storm will clear. And when she does come back, and she always does, You feel a rush so powerful that you forget the pain that came before it. You feel chosen again, seen again, wanted again. The cycle resets, and each time the hook goes deeper. But here's the twist. She's not always doing this to manipulate you. Sometimes this is her survival instinct. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, love feels both safe and threatening. The closer she gets, the louder her inner alarm becomes. So she does the only thing she's learned to do. She creates distance to regain control. It's not always calculated. It's emotional autopilot. She doesn't disappear to hurt you. She disappears to protect herself. But the result is the same. You get addicted to chasing someone who's addicted to running. Addiction feels like love when the drug is attention. This is the invisible contract between the anxious and the avoidant. One needs closeness to feel safe, the other needs distance to feel safe. Together they create chemistry that burns like a wildfire, and both call it destiny. But it's not destiny, it's conditioning. It's trauma dancing with itself in a loop that looks like romance. Because beneath the push-pull, there's a deeper truth hiding in the shadows. She's not trying to win, she's trying to survive. And the question you have to ask yourself is this: are you trying to love her? Or are you trying to save yourself from being abandoned again? Because once you take the bait, the cycle doesn't just continue, it escalates. She doesn't always realize she's playing a game, but in the architecture of the push-pull, there is a design, an unconscious blueprint etched by fear, attachment, and survival. Some women operate from an avoidant attachment pattern. Closeness feels suffocating, vulnerability feels dangerous. So the closer you get, the more instinctively they retreat. And when they retreat, your anxiety spikes. Exactly as evolution intended. You chase, you plead, you justify. And the moment they return, relief floods your brain. It's unconscious strategy masquerading as chaos, not cruelty, not manipulation, protection. Think of it like this. A bird will feign injury to lure a predator away from her nest. The predator is drawn in, heart racing, mind focused. Meanwhile, the eggs, the true treasure, remain untouched. The push-pull works the same way. Your emotional intensity becomes a decoy, while her inner world, her fears, her boundaries, her insecurities remain safe. Psychologists call this the anxious avoidant trap. One partner craves closeness, the other craves distance. But together they create a paradoxical cycle. Intimacy produces withdrawal, withdrawal produces pursuit, pursuit produces intensity, and intensity produces addiction. Here's the cruel irony. The very things that make you desperate for her attention are the behaviors that give her the sense of safety she needs. You're not just addicted, you're reinforcing her survival instincts. Real-world vignette. He texts her 3 times in a row, desperate for a reply. She responds hours later, brief, polite, distant. He spirals. Anxiety rises. She observes, calm. Relief washes over him when she finally opens up. Unknowingly, she's taught him that chaos equals connection, and he will chase that feeling over and over again. Control is the illusion that protects the wounded heart. But the push-pull isn't random. Every withdrawal, every return, every subtle test is calibrated. Not consciously, but instinctively. She's scanning for emotional investment, trustworthiness, and threat. Your obsession is her mirror. Your anxiety confirms her control. And you, unknowingly, become a participant in her emotional self-preservation. The trap deepens when you start mistaking this behavior for passion. You believe the emotional whiplash is proof of desire, not survival. You believe unpredictability equals depth, and intensity equals love. But the truth is simpler and darker. The cycle works because she's afraid, and your brain is addicted to the push-pull. And here's where most men fail. They assume it's about winning her over. It's not. It's about her managing her own fear while your nervous system is being hijacked. The question you need to ask yourself is this: are you in a relationship? Or are you trapped in someone else's survival strategy? Because once you recognize this, you start to see the subtle cues and the distance, the testing, the intermittent warmth. And once you see them, the game changes. But that's not enough. The real danger is what happens inside your own mind when her emotional volatility rewires your attachment system. And that's where the trap turns toxic. Pain can be intoxicating, not the sharp, immediate pain that warns you to pull back. No, the slow, gnawing pain of uncertainty, withdrawal, and unfulfilled desire. That is the drug, and your brain is addicted. This is trauma bonding. When someone alternates affection and distance, your nervous system begins to associate chaos with intimacy. Oxytocin spikes during closeness, cortisol spikes during withdrawal. The mixture of pleasure and stress creates a chemical cocktail that rewires your attachment system. You start to crave the very pain that used to make you hurt. Think about it. The more unpredictable her attention, the more your mind fixates on winning it back. Every pull leaves a vacuum. Every push fills it with longing. And the illusion of control, that if you just try harder, she'll stay, traps you deeper. A man dates a woman for 6 months. Some days, she showers him with affection, texts, calls, weekend dates. Other days, she disappears, cold, distracted, unavailable. He obsesses, he analyzes, he overcompensates. By the 6th month, his emotional state depends entirely on her behavior. He doesn't even realize it. He believes it's love, but it's not. It's a learned addiction to uncertainty. Here's why it's so cruel. The same system that protects your mind from pain also bonds you to it. You start to mistake intensity for connection. You interpret emotional volatility as passion. You forgive what you would never forgive in anyone else. You chase her highs, endure her lows, all while your nervous system grows dependent on the cycle. Psychologically, this is intermittent reinforcement in full effect. Rewarding behavior delivered inconsistently is the most addictive pattern known to science. It's why slot machines work. It's why viral social media loops are irresistible. And it's why you can't stop thinking about her, even when every red flag screams for you to walk away. The mind mistakes volatility for depth. The trap deepens because it isn't just emotional, it's neurological. Your body secretes chemicals that mimic love and addiction simultaneously, and the more extreme the swings, the stronger the bond becomes. Your mind doesn't just desire her, it needs the cycle itself. But here's the truth most people don't understand. She doesn't need to love you to keep you hooked. She only needs to keep the rhythm of push and pull alive, because your craving is the fuel that drives her emotional survival. By the time you realize the cycle is controlling you, your attachment is rewired, your focus is on her returns, not your own life. Your identity becomes tied to her availability, and walking away feels like losing a part of yourself, even though that part was never really yours. This is the dark magic of the push-pull. It doesn't seduce with beauty alone, it seduces with your own chemistry against you. And the more you resist, the more addictive it becomes. The next step is the most dangerous moment, when she realizes you're hooked and the cycle escalates. That's where power, control, and obsession collide, and where most men get trapped forever. By now you know the pattern, the pulls, the pushes, the highs that make you feel alive, the lows that make you question your sanity. But here's the cruel truth, your brain is no longer your own. You didn't sign up for this, you didn't consent. And yet every neurotransmitter is wired to chase her return. The cycle escalates when she notices your attachment, even subtly. A glance that betrays longing, a hesitation before walking away. Your anxiety becomes validation for her behavior. She may not even intend harm, but the effect is the same. Every push trains you harder. Every pull reinforces the addiction. You start anticipating the highs, even subconsciously craving the lows. Your mind measures intimacy in chaos. Your heart mistakes volatility for love. Picture this. Tom met her at a bookstore. For the first month, she was magnetic. Days of deep conversation, shared laughter, sudden affection. Then she vanished. No texts, no calls, no explanation. Tom panicked, called, waited. When she finally replied, warm and apologetic, the relief hit him like a drug. He forgot the silence, forgot the anxiety, forgot the rules he had set for himself. Within weeks, the cycle became their rhythm. Every disappearance made him cling harder. Every return made him addicted. This is escalation in real time. The stakes rise. What started as subtle unpredictability grows into extreme swings. She might test your limits, provoke jealousy, or withdraw for days. You tolerate it because the returns feel godlike. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between healthy intimacy and intermittent chaos. It just craves the next hit. Addiction doesn't need intention. It only needs pattern. And it's not just emotional. Every text, every gesture, every small spark of attention becomes a reward. You're no longer dating a person, you're orbiting a behavioral system. The push-pull has become a machine that feeds on your hope and your fear. And the harder you fight it, the stronger it grips. The trap is brutal because it's invisible. To an outside observer, it looks like romance. It looks like desire. It looks like love. But inside, your brain is being conditioned like a lab rat, rewarded with pleasure one moment, punished with absence the next. And here's the final poison of the reinforcement loop. You start blaming yourself. What did I do wrong? Why can't I make her stay? What is wrong with me? The answers never come, because it's not about you. It's about the cycle itself. Once you recognize this, you face a choice. Stay and ride the highs and lows, or break free and risk withdrawal. Intense, painful, but ultimately freeing. But breaking free isn't just a decision of the heart. It's a neurological battle, a rewiring of attachment, a reclaiming of autonomy. And that is the moment most people fail. You can't reason with chaos, you can't negotiate with unpredictability, you can't chase a pattern and expect permanence. Breaking the push-pull cycle begins with detachment, not confrontation. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means reclaiming your emotional autonomy. It means stepping out of the machine and watching it run without you. Psychologists call this extinction, removing the reinforcement that sustains the addictive loop. No texts, no calls, no chasing, no overanalyzing. When the rewards stop, the behavior begins to weaken, and your nervous system, once hijacked, slowly relearns balance. Alex spent 2 years in the cycle. Every withdrawal felt like a heart attack. Every return felt like heaven. He tried reasoning, pleading, proving himself. Nothing worked. Then he stopped. He stopped engaging. He stopped caring about her mood swings. The first week was agony, cravings, anxiety, obsession. By the 3rd week, clarity emerged. He realized the cycle wasn't love, it was a trap, and in detachment, he finally regained freedom. Detachment is hard because your brain craves chaos. Freedom begins the moment you stop feeding the machine. The key is internal focus, your life, your passions, your boundaries. Not her unpredictability, not her approval, not her highs and lows. When you invest in yourself, the chemical dependency weakens, your attachment recalibrates, and suddenly the pull that once controlled you loses its power. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing, the dynamic changes. She may notice, she may react, but your response is no longer fear, no longer desperation. You observe, you protect yourself, you choose your reality over her chaos. This is not just about escaping a relationship, it's about reclaiming your neurological freedom. It's about recognizing that attraction alone does not equal stability, that intensity is not intimacy, and that being addicted to someone else's rhythm is the opposite of love. The push-pull cycle can feel endless. It can feel like you're drowning in someone else's emotional tides. But the science is clear. Stop reinforcing it, stop engaging, and your brain will rewire. The storm that once controlled you loses power. The final lesson: you cannot fix the cycle. You cannot save her from her patterns. You cannot negotiate attachment chemistry. The only person you can save is yourself. The storm passes, the whirlwind of highs and lows, the emotional whiplash, the sleepless nights. Eventually, it ends. But you are not the same. You've been changed by the cycle, by the addiction, by the lessons burned into your nervous system. Now comes the hardest part: rebuilding yourself. Step 1. Reclaim your identity. You are more than a participant in someone else's emotional game. Your worth isn't measured by their attention. Your life doesn't revolve around their moods. Find your passions, your routines, your friendships. Anchor yourself in reality, not in illusions. Step 2. Heal attachment wounds. Trauma bonding leaves scars on your self-esteem, your trust, your emotional resilience. Therapy, reflection, journaling, and self-observation aren't indulgences. They are survival tools. Understand why you were pulled in. Understand how your nervous system was hijacked, and forgive yourself. Addiction is not weakness, it's chemistry and conditioning. Step 3. Set clear boundaries. If she remains in your life, maintain distance. If the cycle is over, don't revisit it. Your autonomy is your most valuable asset. Do not trade it for fleeting connection or illusionary love. Michael spent 5 years trapped in a push-pull relationship. By the end, he was anxious, depleted, and addicted to her volatility. He walked away. The first months were unbearable. Longing, obsession, doubt. But slowly, he rebuilt. He returned to his hobbies, reconnected with friends, and established boundaries. He even re-entered dating with clarity. No chaos, no manipulation, no addiction. Years later, he realized something simple but profound. Freedom is far more intoxicating than intensity. The cycle only controls those who feed it. The push-pull leaves a lesson. Intensity is not intimacy. Chaos is not passion. Addiction is not love. And as the storm fades, a new perspective emerges. Relationships are meant to nourish, not hijack. Connection is meant to build, not destroy. And your life, your brain, your heart, your identity is worth more than anyone else's push and pull. The final truth is simple and dark, yet liberating. You cannot change her. You cannot save the cycle, but you can reclaim yourself. And once you do, the storm no longer has power. You walk away stronger, wiser, and finally free.